Welcome back. In this segment, which is called Reconstruction 4, we're going to continue working on the process of reconstructing lines of reasoning that were contained in a court case, the Queen versus David Harold Eastman. The decision can be found at this link, and here is an article that summarizes some of the key evidence. You can see part of the article here. And what happened in that case was that the highest ranking police officer in Australia to be murdered, Assistant Commissioner Colin Winchester, was shot twice in the head at point-blank range as he was stepping from his car outside his Deakin home in the ACT at about 9:15 p.m. on December 10, 1989. And as I've said before, from Andrew Palmer's excellent book, Proof: How to Analyze Evidence in Preparation for Trial, we've pulled his depiction of reasons that were extracted from this case. And in this instance, we're just going to work on this one line of reasoning here. This is actually a contention here for our purposes. So the contention is, the conclusion, is that Eastman was the man who purchased the Clarenbeck rifle on or about 31 December 1989. And the reason that was given, we've pulled over here in our tray to work on our reconstruction. The reason is Eastman attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read on 4 or 5 January, and the Clarenbeck rifle was threaded for a silencer. So Eastman was in possession of the Clarenbeck rifle on or about 4 or 5 January 1990. So our next step, as usual, is we separate the conclusion into the subject and the predicate right here. And now we're left with this sentence to determine how we can reconstruct it in a way that makes the connection between this premise and this conclusion clearly logical. And of course, that comes from putting it into the logic bridge. We move the conclusion down here to start filling in the blanks. And again, we separate the subject and the predicate of the conclusion. The subject of the conclusion becomes the start of the first premise, and the predicate of the conclusion becomes the end of the last predicate. Now, we don't know it'll be 4, but this is kind of a placeholder right here, telling us that we've a certain number of steps we're going to need to connect these two. And from this sentence, I've pulled out the predicates that connect to Eastman as the actor, because that's the string. It's how the string that connects all these premises will run. So I look here for the predicates as they relate to Eastman, and I could see Eastman attempted. Okay, there's the verb. So I'm headed right into the predicate here. Predicate phrase, attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read on 4 or 5. The next one, I look here, and I see Eastman, here's the predicate, was in possession of the Clarenbeck rifle on 4 or 5 January 1990. And the last portion here, I see the Clarenbeck rifle was threaded for a silencer, but that obviously would not fit into a inferential premise that would run down a line of reasoning starting with Eastman. So I just move that whole sentence over here. We're going to see where it fits, if it does. So I start testing the order I can place these predicates to see which one makes the most sense. And here I've started with this one. So my first premise becomes Eastman attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read on 4 or 5. Then I move the next predicate, was in possession of the Clarenbach rifle on 4 or 5 January 1990. And I can see that I'm not going to have any more inferential premises when I look here, because this won't be connected to a sentence with Eastman. So I can now move up the predicate, the predicate of the main conclusion to the end of premise 3, because I can see I'm only going to have 3 premises. Then I do the matching as I duplicate these pieces here. And now I have 3 inferential premises that were reconstructed from this reasoning that connects to this conclusion. Premise 1, Eastman attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read on 4 or 5. Premise 2, one who attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read on 4 or 5 was in possession of the Clarenbach rifle on 4 or 5 January 1990. And premise 3, one who was in possession of the Clarenbach rifle on 4 or 5 January 1990 was the man who purchased the Clarenbach rifle on or about 31 December 1989. Therefore, the conclusion, Eastman was the man who purchased the Clarenbach rifle on or about 31 December 1989. Well, remember, after we put our inferential premises lined up, we have to then consider, are there any supporting assumptions that would be necessary or helpful? And of course here, this was the supporting assumption from the original argument. The Clarenbach rifle was threaded for a silencer. So you can see that here. Premise 2, one who attempted to sell a Ruger threaded for a silencer to read out 4 or 5 was in possession of the Clarenbach rifle on 4 or 5 January 1990. Well, for that statement to have any hope of being true, you would need the supporting assumption, the fact needed to be proved, that the Clarenbach rifle was threaded for a silencer. So now I've reconstructed and laid out in a clear, logical fashion how the line of the path for the certainty can run through the premises to lead to the conclusion. And here, of course, the strength of this, the likelihood of the truth of this premise is dependent on the likelihood of the truth or the acceptability of this assumption. Now remember, just a reminder, we're creating clear logical arguments in this fashion. It doesn't mean necessarily that any of the premises are true or that somebody would believe them either 100% or 50% or beyond a reasonable doubt. That's a different issue. What we're working here is, can we reconstruct arguments in a fashion that makes the line of reasoning clear and obvious? Thank you.